A weary man, burdened by the weight of his struggles, approached a Buddhist monk, his voice heavy with despair. His eyes reflected the sorrow of countless sleepless nights, the burden of an existence that seemed to offer no solace. With a trembling voice he spoke, "I am lost. No matter how hard I try, I cannot keep my wife, my children, or my family happy. Even for myself, I find no peace. My days are filled with suffering, and sometimes I wonder if it is even worth continuing. Life has become unbearable, and even securing 2 meals a day feels like an endless battle. Please tell me, how does one survive such times? How does one keep going when every step forward feels like sinking deeper into despair?" The Buddhist monk, his face serene as still water, listened with quiet patience. When the man had finished, the monk smiled gently and said, "There is something you must do." He raised his hand and pointed towards a distant hill. "On that hill there is a temple, and near the temple there is an anthill where thousands of ants live. It may seem strange, but these ants affect the temple grounds, preventing anything from growing there. I want you to do something for me. For the next 7 days, go to that hill and destroy the anthill whenever you see one near the temple. But there is one rule: while destroying their home, ensure that no ant is harmed." The man furrowed his brows, confused by the unusual request. He had come seeking wisdom, a way to escape his suffering, yet the monk was asking him to destroy an anthill. He hesitated, but, unwilling to question the monk's guidance, agreed to carry out the task. As he walked away, doubts crept into his mind. Why should I harm these ants? What lesson could possibly come from this? Yet something within him urged him to follow through. The next morning, he climbed the hill and found the anthill near the temple, just as the monk had said. The tiny creatures were hard at work, gathering food, moving in perfect lines, tirelessly carrying grains back to their home. Watching them, the man felt an unexpected pang of guilt. These ants are working so hard, he thought. They are simply trying to survive, just like me. Who am I to take their home away? Yet, remembering the monk's words, he set aside his hesitation and began to break down the anthill. Immediately, chaos erupted. The ants, confused and desperate, scattered in all directions, their carefully constructed order collapsing in an instant. Some ran frantically, others clung to the grains they had worked so hard to collect, unwilling to let go despite the destruction. When the anthill was completely destroyed, the man stood in silence, watching as the ants disappeared into the soil, seeking shelter. That night, as he lay in bed, a deep sadness settled over him. He had followed the monk's instructions, but it did not feel right. The ants had done nothing wrong, and yet he had torn apart their home. Why did the monk ask me to do this? He wondered. Was there truly a lesson in this, or was I simply destroying something innocent? Despite his doubts, he returned to the hill the next morning. When he reached the spot where the anthill had been, he was stunned. Overnight, the ants had rebuilt their home in the exact same place. Not only had they restored what was lost, but they were already back to gathering food, moving with the same unwavering determination. The man shook his head in disbelief. How foolish these ants must be, he thought. Why would they rebuild in the same place, knowing I will destroy it again? But he had committed to the task. And so, once again, he began breaking down the anthill. The same chaos unfolded. The ants fled in panic, their work reduced to dust in moments. This time, determined to ensure they wouldn't rebuild, the man poured cold water over the ruins, believing he had finally put an end to their efforts. Yet that night, his heart was heavier than before. He felt no satisfaction in completing the task, only unease. Why am I doing this? He questioned. What kind of lesson could be hidden in such destruction? He considered abandoning the task, but something within him urged him to continue. The following morning, he climbed the hill once more, convinced that the ants would have moved elsewhere. But to his astonishment, there stood another anthill, not in the same place, but close by. The ants had relocated, undeterred, and were once again building with relentless effort. The man sighed. Perhaps the monk knew this would happen, he thought. Determined to see the task through, he approached the new anthill and began destroying it once more. But this time, something inside him shifted. As he watched the ants desperately scrambling to save their home, he saw himself in them. He too had faced hardship. He too had struggled to keep his life together, only for circumstances to tear it apart time and again. He had felt hopeless, as though the world conspired against him. But unlike these ants, he had given in to despair. The realization struck him with such force that he froze mid-action. The ants never stopped. No matter how many times their home was destroyed, they rebuilt. No matter how many obstacles they faced, they continued working. They did not question their misfortune, nor did they dwell on what was lost. They simply moved forward. That night, the man could not sleep. His mind was filled with thoughts of the ants. He had come to destroy, yet he had found something he did not expect. A lesson in resilience. The next morning he returned to the hill, but this time he did not come to destroy. Instead, he brought flour from his home and sprinkled it near the ants, offering them nourishment. Over the next few days, he continued to visit the hill, not as a force of destruction, but as a silent observer, watching the ants work tirelessly. By the seventh day, his heart felt lighter. He no longer felt lost. The ants had shown him something he had never truly understood before. Strength was not in avoiding hardship, but in continuing despite it. With newfound clarity, he returned to the monk and bowed deeply. "Forgive me, Master," he said. "I could not complete your task. I destroyed their home 4 times, but after that, I could not bring myself to do it again. Instead, I helped them. Perhaps I have failed you, but I do not regret my choice. The ants, they taught me something. They showed me that even the smallest creatures do not give up. They rebuild again and again. They do not surrender to despair, as I have. I understand now." The monk smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "You have not failed," he said. "You have learned what I wished for you to see. You see, my child, life will always test us. It will break us, challenge us, strip us of what we hold dear. But just as the ants rebuild without hesitation, so must we. Those who keep moving forward, who refuse to give up, will always find a way. No storm lasts forever. No hardship is eternal. The key to survival, to happiness, is persistence." The man listened in silence, his heart swelling with understanding. The monk continued, "Nature does not grant us peace or prosperity easily. It tests us again and again. But those who refuse to bow to despair will one day find that nature, too, bows before their determination. Just as you grew compassionate toward the ants, so too will life grow kinder to those who refuse to quit." Tears welled in the man's eyes. He had spent his life believing he was cursed by misfortune, but now he understood. His struggle was not a punishment. It was a test of resilience, of spirit, of will. And just like the ants, he could rebuild. With a deep bow, he thanked the monk and left, no longer burdened by despair, but filled with a quiet strength. As the man descended from the hill that day, his heart felt lighter than it had in years. The lesson of the ants stayed with him, echoing in his mind like a mantra. No matter how many times they are pushed down, they rise again. No matter how much is taken from them, they rebuild. They do not question, they do not mourn, they simply move forward. For the first time in his life, he saw his own struggles through a different lens. He had always believed himself to be cursed, that his suffering was unique, that fate had chosen him for hardship. But now he understood. Hardship was not a punishment, nor was it personal. It was simply the nature of existence. Just as the wind eroded the mountains, just as the rivers carved valleys over centuries, life would test all who walked its path. And yet, just as the mountains stood tall and the rivers continued their endless journey, so too could he. As he walked back to his village, his surroundings seemed different. The same trees, the same roads, the same houses he had passed 100 times before, but now they held a new meaning. Life had always been moving forward, whether he had realized it or not. The world did not stop for sorrow. The sun did not refuse to rise because someone was grieving. The wind did not pause because a man had lost his way. Life continued. That night he sat in his small, dimly lit home and watched his children sleep. Their breaths were soft, their small bodies curled beneath thin blankets. He had spent so much time worrying, feeling like a failure, believing he had let them down. He had been so consumed by his despair that he had not realized. His children did not care that he was poor. They did not need riches or grand comforts. They only needed him to try. The next morning, he did something he had not done in a long time. He woke up with a purpose. Instead of lamenting his circumstances, he asked himself a new question. What can I do today to build? He had spent too long mourning what was lost. Now he would begin again. With whatever little strength he had, he went to work. He found small tasks, helping farmers in the fields, carrying water, repairing fences. They were humble jobs, nothing grand, nothing that would make him rich overnight. But they were something. He worked not for immediate reward, but with the knowledge that each effort, no matter how small, was a brick in the foundation of his new life. Days turned into weeks, and though his life did not change overnight, something inside him had. He no longer saw obstacles as permanent. He no longer surrendered to despair. Each time he faced hardship, he reminded himself of the ants. If they can rebuild, so can I. One day, after many weeks of steady work, he returned to the Buddhist monk. He had not come seeking answers this time, only to express his gratitude. He bowed deeply before the monk and said, "I understand now. My suffering was never a curse, nor was it a sign to give up. Life is simply what it is, a continuous cycle of building, losing, and building again. I do not fear failure anymore, nor do I mourn what I have lost. I will keep moving forward, just like the ants." The monk smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "You have learned the most valuable lesson of all. Many seek wisdom in grand philosophies, in complicated teachings, but the simplest truths are often the most powerful. Resilience is the key to survival, and survival is the key to all things." The man nodded. He had once believed happiness was something that had to be given to him by life. Now he understood. It was something he had to create, and for the first time, he felt free. The man left the Buddhist monk's hut with a newfound sense of purpose, his heart carrying the wisdom he had learned. The lesson of the ants had settled deep within him, transforming the way he saw the world. Before, he had believed that life was unfair, that he was destined to suffer while others prospered. But now he understood hardship was not a punishment, nor was it something to be feared. It was simply a part of existence, a test of resilience. As he walked back to his village, he felt an unfamiliar lightness in his steps. The burden that had once weighed so heavily on him had begun to lift. He no longer saw himself as a victim of fate. Instead, he saw himself as a man capable of rebuilding, just like the ants. That evening, when he returned home, his wife noticed the change in him immediately. She had grown accustomed to his slouched shoulders, his tired eyes, and the constant air of hopelessness that surrounded him. But tonight, he stood taller. There was something different in the way he carried himself, something steady, something strong. She hesitated before speaking, afraid that the hope she felt was only an illusion. "What happened?" she finally asked. "You seem different." The man smiled, a rare sight that had become almost forgotten in their household. "I learned something today," he said. "Something that I should have understood a long time ago." His wife looked at him, waiting for him to explain, but he simply sat down with their children, laughing as he played with them. The weight of his worries was still there, but it no longer crushed him. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to be present, to enjoy what he had, rather than mourn what he lacked. The next morning, as the sun rose over the village, the man set out to find work. He no longer waited for luck to change or for someone to rescue him from his troubles. He took action. He went to the nearby farms, offering to help plow fields. He visited merchants, asking if they needed a hand carrying goods. He knocked on doors, willing to do anything that would bring in a little money. At first, the work was hard. His body was not accustomed to labor, and the pay was meager. But he did not complain. Each coin he earned, no matter how small, was a step forward. He reminded himself of the ants, patient, persistent, unwavering. Days turned into weeks, and slowly his circumstances began to change. His wife, seeing his efforts, also found small ways to contribute. She began sewing clothes for the villagers, using her skills to bring in extra money. Their children, though still young, helped in small ways, learning the value of hard work. One evening, as the family sat together sharing a simple meal, the man looked around at them. There was still struggle, but something was different. The air in their home no longer felt heavy with despair. Instead, there was hope. His wife noticed him deep in thought. "What is it?" she asked. The man smiled. "I was just thinking about the ants." She raised an eyebrow. "The ants?" He chuckled. "Yes. I spent so much time pitying myself, believing that my suffering was unique. But when I watched those tiny creatures, I realized they never stop. No matter how many times their home is destroyed, they rebuild. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. They don't complain. They simply do what needs to be done." His wife listened, nodding slowly as she understood. "And that's what we will do," he continued. "We will keep moving forward. We will rebuild, no matter how many times life tries to knock us down." His wife reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "We will," she agreed. Over the next few months, the man's efforts bore fruit. His determination caught the attention of a wealthy merchant who offered him a more stable job, managing shipments of goods. With steady work, the man was able to save money, repair their home, and provide better for his family. But more than the material improvements, the biggest change was within him. He no longer feared hardship. He no longer saw failure as the end. He had learned the most valuable lesson of all: resilience. One day, as he was walking through the village, he saw a group of children playing near an anthill. They were laughing, poking at it with sticks, watching as the tiny creatures scurried in all directions. The sight brought a smile to his face. He knelt down beside them and said, "Watch closely." The children looked at him curiously. "Come back tomorrow," he said. "You will see something amazing." The next day, just as he expected, the children returned to find the ants had rebuilt their home. Their eyes widened with wonder. "How did they do that so fast?" one child asked. The man chuckled. "Because they never give up," he said. "No matter what happens, they just keep going. And that is the secret to life." The children listened, their young minds absorbing the lesson. One of them, a boy no older than 7, looked up at the man and asked, "Does that mean we should be like the ants?" The man smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. "Yes," he said, "always." As he walked away, he felt a deep sense of peace. His journey had begun with despair, but it had led him to something greater, wisdom. And so the lesson of the ants lived on, passed from one person to another, like a ripple in a pond. The man's life had transformed, not because his circumstances had suddenly become easy, but because he had learned to face them with a different mindset. He no longer felt cursed by fate or weighed down by his struggles. Instead, he approached each day with a quiet determination, knowing that no matter what happened, he could rebuild. One afternoon, as he worked at the merchant's store, loading sacks of grain onto a cart, an old friend approached him. This friend had once been as hopeless as he had been, drowning in despair, believing life was unfair and unkind. "I don't understand," the friend said, watching the man work with focus and purpose. "A few months ago you were lost, you were drowning in misery, and now you walk as if the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. What changed?" The man wiped the sweat from his brow and smiled. "Come, let's take a walk." Together, they left the merchant's store and made their way through the village. The man led his friend up the familiar path to the hill where the temple stood, the hill where his own transformation had begun. As they reached the top, he pointed towards the ground. "Do you see that?" His friend squinted, trying to make sense of what he was looking at. "An ant hill." The man nodded. "Yes, but do you know how many times I destroyed that ant hill?" His friend looked at him in surprise. "You destroyed it?" The man chuckled softly. "Yes, and not just once, again and again for days." His friend frowned, puzzled by his words. "Why? What did the ants ever do to you?" The man sat on a rock and gestured for his friend to do the same. Then, in a slow, steady voice, he began to tell the story. He spoke of his encounter with the Buddhist monk, of the unusual task he had been given, and of how he had watched the ants rebuild their home time after time with unwavering determination. As he spoke, his friend listened intently, absorbing every word. "The first time I saw them rebuild, I thought they were foolish," the man admitted. "I thought, why don't they just move somewhere else? But then I realized they weren't foolish at all. They weren't wasting their time. They were simply living by a truth greater than any philosophy. No matter how many times life takes from you, you must rebuild." His friend looked at the anthill deep in thought. "But what if you're too tired to rebuild? What if you don't have the strength?" The man nodded. "I asked myself the same thing, and then I realized, strength doesn't come before you act. It comes because you act. The ants didn't sit around waiting to feel strong before they started again. They simply started, and the strength came from the doing." His friend sat in silence, watching the tiny creatures moving tirelessly, carrying grains of sand, rebuilding their world without hesitation. "I was like them once," the man continued. "Not the ants who rebuild, but the ones who scatter in fear when disaster strikes. I ran, I broke down, I lost all hope. But then I saw what they did and I realized I had a choice. I could keep mourning what was lost, or I could start building again." His friend sighed, rubbing his hands together. "I wish I had that kind of strength." The man smiled. "You already do. You just don't see it yet." They sat there for a while, watching the ants work, until the friend finally stood. His eyes held a new spark, a quiet determination that had not been there before. "Thank you," he said. "I think I understand now." The man nodded. "Good. Now go build." And with that, his friend left, carrying with him a lesson that would change his life, just as it had changed the man's. Back in the village, the man continued his work, not just for his family, but for those around him. He had once believed that happiness was something he had to receive. Now he understood that happiness was something he had to give. He began helping others who were struggling. If someone needed food, he shared what little he had. If someone needed work, he found a way to help them earn. If someone was lost in despair, he told them the story of the ants. Slowly, the village itself began to change. The people who had once felt hopeless started to believe in themselves again. The man's transformation had created a ripple effect, touching the lives of those who had once shared his despair. One day, an elderly woman approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You have changed, my son," she said. "Once you were a man weighed down by sorrow, but now you bring light to others." The man bowed his head respectfully. "It was not I who changed," he said. "It was the ants who taught me how to live." The old woman smiled. "Then may we all learn from the ants." And so the lesson spread. The story of the ants was passed from one person to another, whispered in hushed conversations, told to children as they fell asleep, shared among neighbors who had once lost hope. It became a truth that lived in the hearts of the people, a reminder that no matter how many times life knocked them down, they could always stand up again. For the first time in many years, the village, once filled with sorrow, began to thrive. And the man, who had once believed he had nothing left to give, had become the very source of hope he had once sought. Seasons changed, and with each passing day the man's life continued to transform. He no longer walked with the weight of despair on his shoulders. Instead, he carried something different: purpose. Word of his change spread throughout the village. People who had once pitied him now admired him. They saw how he worked tirelessly, how he faced each hardship without complaint, and how he had become a source of strength for those who had none. One evening, as he sat by the river watching the sun dip below the horizon, the Buddhist monk approached him. "I hear you have been teaching the wisdom of the ants," the monk said with a gentle smile. The man looked up, surprised. "I only share what I have learned," he said humbly. The monk sat beside him, the sound of the flowing river filling the silence between them. "And what have you learned?" The man took a deep breath before answering. "That hardship is not meant to break us, it is meant to test us. That suffering is not a punishment, it is an opportunity to grow. That every time life tears something away from us, we are given a choice: to mourn what is lost or to build again." The monk nodded, his expression unreadable. "And have you found peace?" The man thought for a moment. "Peace does not mean an absence of struggle," he said. "It means understanding that struggle is a part of life. And once you stop resisting it, once you accept it as part of the journey, it loses its power over you." The monk smiled. "You have understood well." For a long while they sat in silence, watching the river flow, its waters endlessly moving forward, never turning back. After some time, the monk spoke again. "There is something else you must understand." The man turned to him, listening intently. "You have learned to rebuild after loss," the monk said. "But now you must learn something even greater. You must teach others to do the same." The man frowned slightly. "But I already do. I share the story of the ants. I help those who are struggling." The monk shook his head. "It is not enough to give people hope. You must show them how to build. A starving man cannot be satisfied with a story. He needs food. A man drowning in debt cannot be saved by words alone. He needs work. Wisdom is valuable, but action is what brings change." The man sat in silence, absorbing the monk's words. He had spent so much time pulling himself out of despair. But had he done enough to help others do the same? That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about the people in his village, the ones who were still struggling, the ones who still believed that life was unfair, the ones who had yet to learn the lesson of the ants. The next morning, he woke up with a new determination. He would not only tell people they could rebuild, he would help them do it. Over the next few weeks, the man devoted himself to more than just his own survival. He looked for ways to uplift those around him. He spoke to the merchants in the village, convincing them to offer work to those in need. He gathered the young men who had lost their way and taught them the value of persistence. He helped the widows and the elderly, ensuring that they had enough food to eat and shelter over their heads. Slowly, the village began to change. Where once there had been despair, now there was effort. Where once people had waited for fortune to favor them, now they created their own opportunities. One day, as he was walking through the village, he saw a young boy struggling to carry a heavy sack of rice. Without hesitation, he bent down and lifted the sack onto his own shoulder. "Where are you taking this?" he asked. The boy pointed toward his home. "To my mother. She is sick and cannot work." The man nodded and walked with the boy, carrying the burden for him. When they arrived at the small hut, he saw a frail woman lying on a thin mattress, her face tired but kind. The man placed the sack of rice down gently. "Your son is strong," he said with a smile. "He is a good worker." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "He is all I have," she whispered. "I worry for him every day." The man looked at the boy, then at the woman. "You have done well raising him," he said, "and you will not have to worry alone anymore." From that day on, he made sure the boy and his mother never went without food. But he did not simply give them what they needed. He taught the boy how to work, how to save, how to build a future for himself. That was the greatest lesson of all, not just to survive, but to create a life that could withstand any storm. And so, the wisdom of the ants continued to spread, not just through words, but through action. The village, once struggling, became prosperous. Not because fortune had favored it, but because its people had learned to build, no matter how many times life tried to tear them down. The village had changed, but more importantly, the man had changed. The burdens that once felt impossible to carry were no longer weights that crushed him. They were challenges that strengthened him. The people around him, once filled with despair, had begun to understand what he had learned from the ants. No matter how many times life takes from you, no matter how many times you are knocked down, you must get up and rebuild. One evening, as he walked through the village, he saw an old man sitting alone near the temple steps, his face weary, his eyes hollow with sorrow. The man recognized the look. It was the same expression he had once worn, the same heavy shadow that had darkened his own days. Without hesitation, he sat down beside him. The old man barely glanced at him, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You carry a great weight," the man said softly. The old man sighed. "I have lost everything," he murmured. "My family, my home, my purpose. I have nothing left." The man was silent for a moment before he spoke. "Come with me." The old man frowned. "Where?" "To see the ones who have lost more than you," the man said. Reluctantly, the old man followed. The man led him through the village, stopping at the small hut where the sick woman and her son lived. The boy was outside, carefully weaving a basket, his hands swift, his expression focused. "What do you see?" the man asked. The old man shrugged. "A boy working." The man nodded. "A boy who lost his father, whose mother is too sick to work. A boy who, by all accounts, should have given up. But instead, he is here, doing what he can to rebuild." The old man watched, his expression unreadable. The man continued walking, leading him to a field where a group of men were working late into the evening. The sun had almost set, yet they continued plowing, their hands calloused, their bodies weary but strong. "What do you see?" the man asked again. The old man sighed. "Farmers." The man smiled. "Men who once believed they had no future. Men who months ago sat where you are sitting now, believing they had nothing left. And yet, here they are, working, building, moving forward." The old man stared at the workers, his lips pressed together. Finally, the man led him to the temple steps, where they sat once more. "You say you have lost everything," the man said. "Perhaps you have. But loss is not the end. It is simply an empty space waiting to be filled again." The old man exhaled deeply, running a hand through his thinning hair. "But I am tired," he admitted. "I have no strength left." The man nodded. "I know. I was once where you are now. I wanted to stop trying. I believed that life had beaten me too many times." He looked at the old man and smiled. "And then I met the ants." The old man frowned. "The ants?" The man chuckled. "Yes, the smallest creatures in the world taught me the greatest lesson. No matter how many times you take away their home, they will rebuild. No matter how much you try to drive them away, they will return. They do not complain. They do not despair. They simply start again." The old man was silent, staring down at the ground. The man placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have a choice," he said. "You can sit here and mourn what you have lost, or you can get up and start again." For a long while, the old man did not speak, but eventually he nodded. "I will try," he whispered. The man smiled. "That is enough." Days passed, then weeks. Slowly the old man began to heal. He found work, small tasks at first, then larger ones. His hands, once idle, found purpose again. His heart, once heavy, grew lighter. One day, as the man walked through the village, he saw the old man sitting outside his small home, carving a piece of wood. He was focused, his hands steady, his expression peaceful. The man approached him. "What are you making?" The old man smiled for the first time in a long while. "A gift." "For whom?" "For a boy I know," the old man said. "A boy who has lost much but refuses to give up." The man nodded. The lesson had been passed on once more, and so the wisdom of the ants continued to spread. Years later, when the man had grown old, he sat on the same hill where his journey had begun. The temple stood before him, unchanged by time, and the earth around it was still alive with the movement of ants. A younger man, one of the many he had helped over the years, sat beside him. "Tell me," the young man asked, "do you ever regret anything?" The old man smiled. "Only that I did not learn the lesson of the ants sooner." The young man thought for a moment before asking, "And what is that lesson?" The old man looked out at the setting sun, the sky painted with hues of gold and crimson. That no matter what happens, no matter how many times life takes from you, no matter how many times you are knocked down, you must rebuild. You must rise again and again until the end of your days. The young man nodded, as if the words were settling deep into his soul. The old man chuckled. "And when you are old, you will sit here and tell another lost soul the same thing." The young man smiled. "I will." And with that, the wisdom of the ants continued its journey, passed from one heart to another, like a flame that could never be extinguished. For as long as people lived, for as long as they faced hardship, for as long as they questioned their place in the world, the lesson would remain. No matter how many times you are broken, no matter how much you lose, you must rise. You must rebuild. Again and again, just like the ants.